What is going on, ProGuides family? It is your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we'll be talking about why you should play Duelists. Duelists are generally seen as some good fun, but there's actually some deeper knowledge when it comes to knowing whether or not you should end up maining them. So without further ado, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and let's just get into it. Duelists are by far the most popular role in Valorant. They're fun to play, easy to carry on, and they have the abilities that allow them to do things that no other type of agents can. Yoru can teleport across the map and go invisible, Jett can literally fly around, and Raze can not only race the map with her blast packs, throw grenades that can demolish entire pushes, but she can also pull out a massive bazooka with a decently forgiving one-hit kill ability. After all, it doesn't show on the scoreboard anywhere, and that's where a lot of people are going to have their eyes trained on. And two of the things I just mentioned are already key factors about why you should pick Duelists, so let's go more in depth. The first thing we have to talk about is the Duelist playstyle. The Duelist role is unlike any other in Valorant. On most agents, staying alive is a crucial part of your kit. If you stay alive longer, you get to use more of your utility, and dying early can be the demise of your entire team, at least for the round. Dying on a controller means no more smokes, so good luck getting onto sites. Having one of your initiators die makes it so much harder to enter into choke points, especially if you don't plan on getting AWP'd. And a sentinel going aggro means you may as well just not pick the role in the first place, as quite literally all their util depends on people walking into it. Duelists aren't like that, however. Of course, we're not saying you should speedrun to your death, but dying early isn't anywhere near as problematic. You do have good utility as well, but at the same time, a lot of it is to make plays for yourself, not so much for the rest of your team. Duelist utility is generally pretty good at seeking out fights on their own, and their disposability means that this is usually what they are tasked to do. And think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Losing Arena at the start of the round makes your whole team sigh in disappointment, but it won't hurt your chances too much, aside from lost map control of course. But if your Reyna manages to get a Viper or a Sova, well, the round's looking pretty good. Real good. It's because of that why Duelists are almost expected to go look for fights at the start of rounds. It's usually pretty good to do at least something aggressive, and the Duelists are simply just better suited for the job. Basically, the Duelist role is more aggressive than any other, and because of that, you'll be in the action a lot more than you would if you were playing any of the other agent roles. And it's this aggressive playstyle that really helps players test their limits of themselves and their agent, helping them improve a lot faster. Limit testing is a crucial part of learning any game, seeing how far you can go, and push yourself before you get punished. Playing safe you'll also improve, but you'll do so at a much slower pace. You won't come to know your own capabilities as quickly, and you'll always be trying to minimize the stress you put on yourself. This of course has the advantage of offering more benefits in the short term, as you won't be dying or throwing your life away nearly as much, meaning the chances of you winning increase. But long term, over the period of hundreds of games, the player that is limit testing will probably be at a much higher skill level. Of course, there is a fine line between limit testing and good old inting, aka intentionally throwing. But when playing aggressive, you'll naturally die more, try to achieve more, and you'll inevitably learn more. It's a really big upside that's not often talked about, but it's something you should really consider when you decide to main an agent or role. And on the topic of Duelists and limit testing, one huge factor that all-star Duelists have is their solid aim to lead them to victory. That's why if you're looking to build up that skill set to really flourish as a Duelist, you have to check out AimLab, the best free aim trainer available. Not only are there pro-created playlists to test your skills, you also get more in-depth metrics and analysis on your weaknesses so that you can really break through your limits like it's nothing. Click the link in the description to get started on your journey to 10's aim level today. Just remember guys, playing aggressive does not mean throwing, so please don't ruin your teammates' games by clearly trying to take on too much all at once. You'll only end up playing faster if you're actually trying to improve, not just running it down. And there's a huge difference by taking a big risk to try something you can see yourself doing and just running in and hoping for the best. Running in and hoping for the best is something you only do when you first get started. But by the time you've played enough unrated games to be able to play ranked, you probably already have a pretty decent idea on what's risky aggression and what's just plain stupid. Before we move on though, let's quickly cover our question of the day. Today's question being, what's your favorite role to play? Mine's the initiator role because mainly I just really love KO and Sova. KO and Sova are two of my favorite agents in the game. They both have great damage abilities, they both have great util and recon abilities. I really love both of their ultimates and how it can change the outcome of a round. Those two are just some of my favorite agents in the game, so I naturally tend to lean a little bit more towards the initiators. Make sure to drop your favorite role in the comments down below, and perhaps leave an update after you've seen the full video. To add on to that, there's a lot of pressure when you're playing a Duelist, both from yourself and from your teammates. Everyone expects you to perform, and you're constantly thinking about pushing yourself to the next level. Got 2 kills? Well, not bad, but 10s would have probably got 4. Oh, and the enemy Jett killed 3, so it's a Duelist diff nonetheless. No matter how many frags you get, how good of a game you had, or how nice that one multi-kill was, if you're a duelist, you know you can do better always. This of course can have the effect of bringing you down emotionally, but it'll also motivate you to grind harder, practice more, and eventually improve faster, always pushing yourself to be better than the rest. This pressure has a really big effect and it can make or break a player. For a lot of people, it's already enough to shy away from the role, since they don't want to be blamed, but for those that dare to play it, it's definitely also there, and it's always lurking in the background. This pressure might not feel great for everyone, but it does definitely help with improvement. And we can see that everywhere, even in other games. Look at a game like WoW, for example, World of Warcraft. In this game, there are 3 roles: healers, DPS, and tanks. DPS are the duelists of WoW. They are expected to output a lot of damage and they're judged by their score all the time. Tanks and healers don't have to worry nearly as much. The role isn't as popular, and it's harder to tell if they're doing well or not. Playing a role of a tank or support isn't easy per se, but a bad game won't get you sent flying out of the team like it would on a DPS. Playing alright is alright, and as long as you're doing good enough, it's good enough. Seems nice enough at the surface, but it does have some pretty bad downsides. This complete lack of pressure makes the role breathe complacency. As long as you're not doing awful, you're fulfilling your role. And because of that, you won't be nearly as motivated to grind and improve as DPS players would, which really gets proven if you look at the top guilds of World of Warcraft. Unlike what you'd expect, the best guilds in the game don't put tank and healer mains on their respective roles. In fact, they're not recruited at all. What they do instead is get DPS mains and simply use them to fill all the roles. The extra motivation and work ethic that these players have simply does not compare with those that have already played the role for years. Basically, it's better to have a DPS main learn a new role than to have someone with less of a passion do something they've been doing for years and years already. Work ethic and motivation here beats out experience, and that's an important lesson for those of you who might be playing an agent because you find comfort in not getting flamed. Now, please note that of course we're not saying you should become a duelist one-trick insta-locking every single game, but you should have to consider the effects that your agent of choice might be having on your motivation. Having a bad game because you're trying out a new agent or role might not be fun in the moment, but always remember that the only reason you got good on your current main in the first place is because you struggled through the learning curve and eventually became quite competent. And a lot of times, in order for you to find that motivation in Valorant, you don't even have to play a duelist, as going 1-18 on a difficult to learn agent like Astra will probably be enough motivation already. Of course, all the points we mentioned previously still hold true, and the pressure we as a community put on duelists is on a whole nother level. But please, don't take that as an excuse to insta-lock. There still needs to be other roles. So really, as long as you're constantly challenging yourself on new agents, you're probably already doing enough. And then for games of duelists, just take any chance you get. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we have the fact that duelists are the role that clearly has the highest impact. And this high impact gameplay is great for improving, learning, and self-reflection. Duelists usually have high kills, and even if they don't, their ability or inability to find first opening picks will have an enormous effect on the rest of the game. I mean, that's the reason they're usually the first to blame, right? When it comes to duelists, you can really see their impact and how much it is. Having a bad duelist or just one having a bad game can oftentimes result in the entire team feeling stuck. Everything needs to be done perfectly, and a possible execute would have to be flawless or the round just falls apart. And the opposite is also true. Have a really good duelist on your team, maybe even a smurf, and it suddenly feels like you and your team can do pretty much anything, even if one or multiple teammates makes big mistakes. In the end, it all comes back together and the round is won regardless. The amount of pressure duelists can apply or alleviate is insane, and it's why most people consider duelists to be the best players in the world even in the pro scene. Naturally, this huge impact has two sides to it. As a duelist player, you have the option to throw your game relentlessly, or hard carry your teammates to the high heavens, usually something in between. But doing that same thing on other roles and agents is just a lot harder. And honestly, from a solo queue standpoint, that's kind of amazing. After all, if you're one of the duelists, you're going to have the biggest impact on the game, meaning that your performance is most likely to reflect on the game's result. This partially defeats a big issue that solo queue is plagued by: randomness. We already talked about how on most roles except for duelists, you kinda need to stay alive, as your utility is crucial for the rest of your team. But that also means that if you do get one of those smoker or Sova players that for some reason spend the entire game lurking or using their utility only for themselves, you're pretty screwed. Luckily for a duelist, that's less of a factor though, since again, you're mostly self-reliant and your utility is suited for taking fights on your own, a luxury that most other agents simply do not have. Essentially, duelists are just a lot more impactful on other roles, which helps you carry games, but also makes situations less hopeless in case you do run into some pretty bad teammates. But anyways guys, that's gonna have to wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to leave a like and a sub. And even ring that bell notification icon in order to never miss another upload or news leak as it comes out. And also remember to visit our website ProGuides.com. Our courses and coaches will be more than willing to help you out with any Valorant related questions and tips for improvement. This has been your host, Sergeant Frost, and I'll see you all again in the next video.